Good morning, Art and Answers. It's time for May's tutorial on growth and learning. We've got some really exciting things going on this month, and something that's going to be a collaborative project, which I really hope that you will participate in, because we kind of need everybody to submit. But I will come on a little later and explain all that, not at this tutorial. But we also have some quizzes coming this month about what your learning style is and some other things, so that you can start relating to how you learn, how you grow, and also pay attention to your friends and family and how they learn and grow, and hopefully just create a more symbiotic relationship. So today we're going to, I had the design, the stained glass tulips, and just like anything else, it's an evolution. So I came up with the design. You saw the pattern, the tracer, and I created it, and I loved it. And that was the original one with the white soft edges. And then I decided, no, you have to kind of sit back to really see what it is. So I'm going to outline all the pieces of the stained glass. And honestly, I just didn't like it as much. It's still pretty, but it's not like it was. So that's the one that we're going to do today without the lines. But I also offered, because it's getting into summertime, I wanted to have some things that were a little easier, a little lighter, not so heavy deep dive into our, psychology, but just fun things. So I also took this same design and did it almost just like a color page, but I did it with watercolor and colored pencil. If you can see like some of the shading and stuff, and that's all colored pencil. So this is, and I like the dramatic black lines on this one. I think it's very pretty. So you can do it however you want. You can do either one. You can do a combination of the techniques. But I'd love to see them when you get done. So, and I love that this one is purple flowers and this one's got the red flowers. So, but what we're gonna do today is with the masking fluid, which is how I ended up with all the nice white lines. So one of the things you need to know about masking fluid, if you're not familiar with it, is it's just plastic. It's a special kind of plastic. But you lay it down and it's gooey and you really need to let it dry overnight. You really don't need to hit it with a heat tool or anything like that, because it won't dry it. It just makes it gooier. So I have already done this part, and you notice that this one is green and this part is blue. This is two different kinds, and this one was in a pen and it just wasn't coming out. It gets gummy. It's like glue almost. And so I abandoned that one and I went back to my other one, and I ended up kind of almost painting it on, whereas this thicker part I just squeezed it on. But you can feel it's kind of tacky. And usually I only do it overnight. I think it may come off, but I did this a couple days ago, so I'm hoping that it's not going to tear the paper too bad. But that is something that you really need to be careful of when you go to take the masking fluid off after everything's dry, because it can tear your paper quickly. I put a post in the group where you can see that I tore it as well, and I just stopped, pushed it off of the masking fluid, and then I got finished with the whole thing, and then I glued it back down. So it's nothing to worry about. Just just something to look at, okay? All right, so we're gonna get started. Ready? After you get your masking fluid on there, let it dry, then you get to this stage. I'm gonna move you a little bit so you can see better. Ta-da. Okay, how's that? Better? All right, and if you saw one of my lives the other day, I did I went on a business retreat, and I found this cool oyster shell, which is perfect. My brush sticks right there, and this is where I'm putting my clear water. All right, so we're gonna do wet on wet, especially with the tulips. And so I'm gonna get this water in all these petals of the tulips, just carefully. And I know you're thinking, why in the world did I decide on stained glass, right? It's kind of an odd way to think of things, but I was thinking about stained glass because this month is all about growth and learning, and you really can't learn a lot until you've made some mistakes, until you've broken a little bit. And that's really the gist of this whole thing. Because stained glass is just putting together all the shards of broken glass, which is a pile of junk, right? And then you make it into something beautiful. So, I know it's hard to see this, but you will still see the texture of the paper, but it'll have kind of a sheen on it, where you can tell that it's wet. And I did not wet my paints like I ordinarily do. I think, let's see, we could go, this is a magenta and a red, and we could go more like a violet. That would be pretty, something a little different. All right. And so I'm just going to start off with my pigment down at the bottom part because that's the heaviest. That's where the petals overlap each other. That's where less light is going to get through at one time. So it's going to be a more saturated, dense color down here at the bottom. When you start thinking like an artist, life just opens up. It's just so beautiful. You start realizing why things look the way they do, and it's just amazing. And of course, that is also part of the stained glass lesson. What's fun about this is it holds all the paint in, so you just want to be real careful and drag some of this really light paint right up along the edge of the masking fluid. You don't have to, color it completely in, but you want it to at least be up against the end of the masking fluid so that there's a differentiation between there and the other part. Make sense? Otherwise the white will just blend into the white and it won't look like much of anything. And this is just so meditative. It's just is simple, but yet kind of elegant. It's just a way to set your mind on fire. Let yourself be free. All right. So, you know, another way that stained glass represents our growth in learning patterns is how the light shines through it and how beautiful it is when you can actually see the whole picture. You can see how it is benefited, what's dense, what's fixed, what's still broken. The light reveals a lot. Okay. And so, and of course, you know, with this watercolor, as beautiful as this is, you know it's going to change. You know it's going to move a little bit. Oh, excuse me. All right, so I'm going to clean this off and get some fresh, clear water again. And I'm going to kind of go on stems that aren't just right on top of the flowers, because I don't want to take a chance, even though it's, you know, there's a barrier between there. I still want to be careful with it. I hope you guys are starting to make some summer plans. I know we've got some summer plans. Here we go. And tulips have a pretty bright greenery, pretty bright stems, and so we're going to be using a pretty springy color green. So what else about the stained glass? I know that there's an intentional design when the stained glass pattern is beginning to be created. That's pretty important because we know that we were designed with intention. Sometimes we forget that. We need to be reminded that there was a plan for us. All right, same thing. We're going to start laying this color down. And I've got a little bit darker color that I'm putting down here at the base. Because again, this greenery is all overlapping each other. Anywhere where there might be a shadow, like right there where that leaf is going. There's a little bit right here. And then I'm gonna get a little bit of a more springy color for the rest. Right here where the flower, the sun is coming down and the flower itself would shadow that a little bit. How about that? All right. Now I'm gonna get a much brighter green. And if you don't have a real bright green, so you can always add some yellow to it and it will give you a beautiful bright, I don't know if you can see that, but it looks a lot brighter to me from where I'm sitting. All right. And if you feel like your colors are just kind of sitting there, you can always tilt a little bit, especially now that you have the masking fluid on there, because it's not going to run, although although you don't want to get rid of your highlight areas, but you can fill it in just a little bit with that. And this is also something that, like I said, that you don't want to put the heat tool on it. You don't want to put the heat tool on your watercolor while it has the masking fluid on it as well. So this is a project that you might, I'm going to go ahead and forge ahead, but you might want to lay some color down and go get some coffee or go take a break or something, because it will be a lot easier for you if you let it dry on its own. And I guess this is a celestial being. What do you think? The sun? Is that what it looks like to you? It's kind of what it looks like to me too. And I'm just gonna kind of get in these tight spots. Another thing the stained glass teaches us about our life is, oh, look at that. That's why you need to let it dry. Let's see if I can suck it up. But out of respect for your time, I was going to continue on. Anyway, it's a lot of delicate broken pieces that is put back together and fortified with very strong materials. Now see, I missed this across here, so we're just going to have to try to create that with the water. It's not going to be easy. We'll try. All right. And what I did with this, if you'll notice, I left a little bit of a lighter area there for a natural highlight. And I think that is way too bright. We're gonna, there we go, that's a little bit better. That didn't blend with the tulips very nicely. All right, and we're just gonna kind of gently lay this in here. It's gonna flow, so don't get nervous. I know you guys don't hear me be quiet very often. I'm really concentrated on not having a blowout like we just did. But did you see how I took it? No big deal, right? It's just no big deal. All right, so I'm also going to add kind of an orange down here at the bottom. You know how sometimes the sunset gets that really rich, beautiful color right before it goes down. I like that. Now, my highlight kind of disappeared, so I'm going to kind of put one in. That's the nice thing about it. You can just sort of suck up paint. So your glass parts are framed in strength, right? And I don't know what I'm doing. All right, now we're gonna put the background color here, which is a turquoise. Tell me, what's been your favorite project in Art and Answers so far? I've spoken to a lot of you. I know what some of them are. And I know you're enjoying it, which is great. I am too. I'm really hoping that this masking fluid, because it's been more than overnight, I'm hoping that it's not going to be too hard to get off. It could be. It very well could be. I don't usually leave it longer than that. But I guess that's part of it. We're just going to find out. Do you think you like the wet on wet technique with watercolor better, or do you think you like to just paint it right on the dry paper? I mean, they both have a different reason, but so there's a purpose for both of them, but some people just like the way it feels, they like the way it looks. The wet on wet is more mixy. You can, you see how beautiful some of this coloring is becoming. It's just easy to get the natural shading in there. And I'm mixing a light and a darker turquoise together. And you notice that I just leave my colors right in here. And I let them dry. I leave the whole thing open and I let them dry. And all you have to do is put a little more water in there and reactivate them and use them again. So you don't have any wasted paint. You don't have paint going down your sink like we do with our acrylics. And so there's something good to be said about both, right? This looks a little hot and garish, but you know how watercolor dries a little lighter. So it's not going to be too bad. When you paint, do you paint in silence or do you paint with music on, a podcast, a book, an audible book? Tell me what you like to paint with. I often just paint in silence. I know sometimes if you watch some of my workshops or lives or stuff, sometimes I'll have birds on. Or sometimes I just have my windows open and I have a lot of birds near me. So some of those birds you hear and may be actual natural birds. We recently got an owl a lot more active in our yard, which I have mixed emotions about. We have a really tiny cat. I think she's okay, but she's a little afraid of him. But I was reading last night that they will eat 12 mice a night. That's pretty good pest control, I'd say. Sometimes we just let the natural world to be itself, and we're a lot better off, right? Okay. It's looking good, right? How about it? All right. So I'm gonna let this move a little bit. There we go. All right. And something that I ordinarily do prior is get it on one of these plastic boards, cutting boards, but I didn't do it. I don't know why. So I'm gonna give it a little drying time while we're doing this. I think that the most important aspect that I thought of while I was coming up with my stained glass theory is when you're creating something with stained glass, all the glass is different. Every single piece is different. And so the finished result, even if you did the same pattern over and over and over again, it's a masterpiece all to itself. And then they're all unique, just like all of us are unique. We all have our strengths and our talents. Our weaknesses and our fears. I missed a spot. And that's okay. You're gonna have places like that you have to go back to. But I'm just a fan of these bright white fancy edges, and so this is why I always do this. This happens to be frog tape, by the way, if you're interested. You notice how our tulips have just about filled completely in? That's just the nature of the beast. All right. So then this outside color, I used the same color on both of these. I really like it. I think it really offsets the whole thing. And I like the little dots, the little stars, if you will, if you want to call them that. But I got this color by kind of mixing a very dark blue and I mean a tiny, tiny bit of black. And if you get too much, it's just gonna be overwhelming, overbearing. I mean, a little bit. I mean, the black will overpower it in a hurry. Okay. Tell you what, I'm gonna pick up some of this orange that's pooling over here. That'll help it dry a little bit. You can't pick it up too much because it's already started to dry and you don't want to upset the flow. Just like that. Okay. So, go back in the clean water again. The outside goes a little bit quicker. But see, isn't this fun with the masking fluid? It really gives it an element of, you know, just elementary. Because it's just kind of coloring in the spaces. But it's also got an air of mastery as well, since you have to put you don't have to, but if you want to put all the shading in there and the highlights, the natural highlights. Okay. And then I kind of continue to rub it in. I'm excited for you to get your, let's see, it's a learning style quiz and your art style personality. It's really going to tell you a lot about yourself. You'll get those next week, I believe. But we have another project besides this one. Super simple. Won't take you probably 20 minutes. But we're all going to do it together and have a little collaborative thing, since it's about learning and listening. And there's also some tech involved, which I've gone through and shown you. I'll show you exactly how to do, because I have come to find out that when we stop learning, our brain stops growing. You've just got to find ways to challenge yourself. And I know it's so easy to say, oh, I'm just not good at tech, and I'm a creative person, and I can't. Now it is true that I can't math very well. But I have decided that no matter what, I'm going to continue learning the technology, because I can use a calculator if I need to add stuff, but I am not going to have my grandchildren ahead of me. I want to be able to compete. So I just keep trying to learn things, and I'm glad that you're on this journey with me, because I want your brain to be stimulated, and I want you to enjoy your life and have fun. All right. How about that? I kind of got out of the center of the thing there. All right. It's beautiful, isn't it? This is something, though, we have to let it dry. We just have to let it dry. And just remember that you are a beautiful piece of stained glass, and the light brings meaning to your life. You're intentionally made. You're framed with strength. And you're unique in every way. And I love you. So, get your project done. I'd love to see it when you get done. And you be thinking about how special you are. All right. I'll see you soon. Bye.